Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Arc Raiders. Today we're talking, well, everything yellow. Everything that has this tag of legendary. So of course that does mean the weapons, but it also means utility like the snap hook and of course the two legendary attachments that exist in the game that completely change how a weapon functions. And so is that good? How does it work? Is it worth running? What you should run it with? And a ranking of all the legendary items compared to one another, that's what this video will be. We begin with the rarest of all of the options, really. It's the attachments. These things are just quite rare to find, and I've never seen one of the blueprints, not anyone in my team either. So it is possible, but they are rare. If you are looking for them, the best place you're going to find them is security locations. Obviously, red for higher loot value, and at night for increased loot chance. That kind of thing is going to be your best option. We begin with the Kinetic Converter stock. So you must have a gun with a stock on it. So that's the Pharaoh, Kettle, Rattler, the Stitcher, Arpeggio, the Toro. It'll work on the Osprey, Renegade, Torrent, Patina, Bobcat, Tempest, and Vulcano. So it will work on a lot of different weapons. What does it actually specifically do? Well, it gives you 15% increased fire rate at the cost of 20% increased horizontal and vertical recoil. If it's on a weapon that already has recoil issues, it's going to massively impact the recoil. And now that increased fire rate is missing the target, completely making the value of the stock worthless. So of course it's best used with a weapon that's going to benefit from that fire rate but doesn't care about the recoil issues. Therefore, the number one choice and option I tested it the most with is of course the Stitcher. The beautiful thing about a Stitcher is how cheap and effective it is. Now the Bobcat is a meta weapon and unbelievably good at close range. It has 66 fire rate, meanwhile the Stitcher has 45. You slap on 15% there and it goes up to 60. So it's got 6 less fire rate than the Bobcat with this stock on. But the difference between the Stitcher and the Bobcat is the Stitcher does 7 damage a shot and the Bobcat does 6. So even with basic attachments, level 4 Stitcher is cheaper and more effective than the Bobcat because you're dealing more damage per shot and the fire rate is ever so slightly behind it with this stock. I found this to be an incredible weapon with this stock on specifically, and hilariously cheap to run because the repair costs are really low too, unlike say a Bobcat's repair cost, and certainly upgrading. So if you do find yourself with a Kinetic Converter, your best choices would be a Stitcher for sure. But I also want to acknowledge that a Vulcano would also be great. The whole point of a Vulcano is to stat check someone by dumping the mag on target as fast as possible. By giving it that increased fire rate, which by the way comes from upgrading it too, you get to just kind of no skill trade everyone. So it's a very valid choice there too, but obviously more expensive than the Stitcher in terms of parts and upgrading and running. Two other weapons you might consider on would be, say, the Torrent and the Renegade. The Torrent because it's already a fantastic time to kill weapon, giving it more fire rate's great, but then the downsides of the recoil, you must crouch while firing it to actually accurately shot plus attachments. It is one to consider, as well as the Renegade, which already gets fantastic fire rate increases when you upgrade it. Adding even more on top would feel great, and that little pause between shots should help manage the new recoil. But overall, my top choice for this would be definitely a Stitcher in terms of budget to effectiveness, and then a Vulcano right behind that if you're willing to invest a bit more. Next up then we have the Anvil Splitter, the tech mod, which is certainly controversial. Some people claim it's unbelievably good, some people say it's just not worth running ever. The reality, as usual, is somewhere in the middle. It only works on the Anvil, which is why it has that tech slot. What it does is changes the single shot into 4 overall weaker shots instead. You might imagine it as like a spread version of the Anvil. 4 shots per fire, but it only costs 1, which is really neat. But each shot has 70% reduced projectile damage per shot. Overall, if you're landing all shots, this will give you more damage, especially if any of those land on a critical spot, like a raider head or just an arc weak point. It's interesting. The spread is tighter than you might imagine. It will work at close to medium ranges, not just close ranges, but it's certainly not a clear winner from the normal Anvil, even up close. When you have the Anvil Splitter, you want it to be like an incredibly dangerous thing up close, right? That's the whole concept of it. So you will require a level 4 Anvil for the fire rate increase. And as you trade with someone who's using a Venator level 4 or either of the shotguns, whatever close range weapon it is, it's going to do much the same job, but not as well as a Venator. Not as well, in fact, as either shotgun really. Even a Toro, yes, it has the downside of the pump between the shots, but then you can jump, slide, or roll, giving you evasive movement in that downtime to avoid the return fire. It doesn't really compare to a Venator that's stat checking you or a Vulcano. The best arguable benefits for this situation is the heavy ammo shots into an arc. It's going to be strong up close, but certainly better than a shotgun because shotgun ammo has no armor pen at all, where heavy certainly does. So it feels great when shooting your basic arc for sure. But yes, a lot less of a clear winner than it first might appear. My advice on this is that it's interesting and worth running just for the fun of it. But you have to be ready for the fact that your Anvil no longer works at longer ranges, but has a lot more burst potential when it comes to dealing with arc up close and surprising other raiders. You just have to hope that they're not a good player with a Venator or one of the shotguns, because then it's not going to be a clear win. Moving on then, we have our first utility legendary, the snap hook. Thankfully, these are actually craftable as well as findable, but you will need the blueprint. Sadly, of course, I don't have it, but you need the utility station and you need it at level 3 specifically to craft it. You'll need 2 power rods, 3 rope and 1 Exodus module for each craft. But God, is it worth it. Using this, you can attach yourself to objects and drag yourself over longer distances for great traversal options. Using this, you can pull yourself up to a high ledge and do some really surprising and effective movement. Obviously, the potential here is great for escape or pushing someone in a surprising way, and certainly dealing with arc in a variety of new ways made possible by the snap hook. Be aware that it does have durability, so it won't last forever, and to repair it, you'll need a power rod and 1 Exodus module once again. But I do think it's worth it. Another great benefit is the fact that it goes into your safe pocket. So you pull it out, slap it into a quick use slot, use it once, maybe twice, and then put it away, protecting it from being lost in a way that weapons just can't be put in the safe pocket. Here's how it works though. You have a sort of stamina bar. You can use it twice before that stamina bar won't let you use it again until it's at least halfway refilled. Aim at something, attach, and let yourself be flung towards it. As long as you aim just below like a ledge edge, you'll mantle up. So this works for slamming into a bastion and climbing on top of it, or a rocketeer, or a matriarch, that kind of thing. But you have more control than that. If you hold A or D, left or right, you can move left or right around an object you've attached to, like a pillar, a tree, swinging yourself around it for great momentum, giving you incredible slide potential for long-range movement. You can also hold space or jump to go up and over the thing you've attached to. This will fling you over the target though, which might be a bit awkward if you've targeted a rocketeer and flung yourself over it like I do here. But yes, the movement potential of this concept is great for both PvE and PvP. You can see how I'm in a really awful spot here at checkpoint, and I use it to fling myself over this truck to move a bit further away and get in a better position. Now, relevant combos with this would certainly be the new Deadline Mine, which when combined with a snap hook is an arc-killing monster. There are many arcs that you will have a really hard time getting on top of without a snap hook. Something like a Queen, a Matriarch, Bastion and Bombardier, or a Rocketeer. You slap a Deadline Mine on top of them before running off, and you'll deal 1000 damage in one blow, which will instantly kill Bastions, Bombardiers, Rocketeers, and so on, and deal incredible bursts to the Queens, of which you can place multiple Deadline Mines on before you have to drop off because it takes 6 seconds to pop, giving you new solo options. You just got to be careful with it. There are many examples of players slapping into a wall or object, aiming poorly and falling to the death. But as a fun bonus fact, you can grab small arc with it and pull them towards you. This works with like wasps. As you can see, I pull this one towards me and then shoot it while it's being dragged. Pretty cool. But now we get to the special legendary weapons, starting with the Jupiter. This is a sniper rifle without like optics, but as it states, it fires projectiles at an incredible velocity, capable of damaging multiple targets with one shot. What this really means is that it's got incredible penetration, so it goes straight through the heavy armor of an arc. So this is why you can one-shot different arc if you aim at the correct place, because you're penetrating through. But then at the same time, you might shoot the very same arc and not one-shot it because you didn't get the max value of that penetration. Either way, it takes a bit of a wind-up before it blasts, much like firing a Sentinel sniper's attack. It's really cool. It deals 55 damage a shot and is incredibly impactful for surprising people in PvP when used at an effective medium to long range. Because yes, you can fire it really far away, really accurately on someone. People naysay this weapon in regards to PvP because, there's a charge up time, they're just going to dodge it, avoid it. But have you seen the desync in this game? Most of the time when I put it on someone and just fire, they don't dodge it. So it's an incredibly good sniper and one that I prefer using over the Osprey because at the same time, you're also destroying arc with it. You will literally barely not one-shot a surveyor because you shoot straight into the core, you're penetrating. It'll be on fire and basically 1 health after 1 shot. You can one-shot wasps and hornets, all the small arc, and it's incredibly effective at dealing with your bigger arc by targeting their weak points, you know, the joints, the battery on the back, that kind of thing. It's an incredibly fun weapon, and right now of the two that are in game, my favorite legendary weapon. Be warned though, it does require special ammo, the energy clips, which requires 2 batteries and 1 advanced arc power cell per craft here. You can also get them at the gun shop for 3,000 per 1 single clip, so you can have 5 in 1 stack. This only gives you 1. The alternative source to this, where you get them in massive quantities, is of course the Harvester event, where you can pull it out of all the different locations and the main chambers that come out at the end. The best source of it overall. If only we had stash space to actually justify that. To craft yourself a Jupiter, you will need level 3 gunsmith station. And you'll need the blueprint, which you get from the Harvester event. You need 3 magnetic accelerators, 3 complex gun parts, and 1 queen reactor per craft. I've used about 5 or 6 of these things. It is fantastic and well worth it. But next, let's talk about the Equalizer, a high-capacity experimental beam rifle that I do not rate as high as Jupiter. Despite its low damage numbers that it suggests, it deals 8 damage a tick and has 50 ticks per mag. It will chunk through ammo pretty quick if you're not careful, but God, if you get this on target, it does a lot of damage. Since it's firing energy ammo, it's going to go straight through any and all armor for arc, making it a weak point shredder, but also stripper of armor, like exposing the weak points under and then swapping to a different weapon would do well. But it really is like the energy version of a Torrent, so there's lots of potential there. But the mechanics of it are bad. What I mean by that is while it's in your hands, or rather when you're pulling it out, it's very slow to pull out. Then it requires a kind of wind up or whir up time before the beam begins. Now that beam is surprisingly long distance, you can shoot from pretty far away at a target, and it's very accurate. But with that pull out and wind up time, in PvP that can and will get you killed. Against a lot of weapons, it will outtrade them. But against a Venator, proper gameplay with either of the shotguns, and honestly, even things like a Stitcher, it can be a bit risky. The best way to use it in PvP is by surprising someone by whirring up on them, and then their first awareness is when you're already shooting them from a respectable medium range. They'll panic roll where you can follow them and easily track them and put them down. When facing people up close, you must wind it up before you swing, and they have to try and willingly trade with you. So, in my opinion, this requires mistakes from the enemy in that scenario, making it an unreliable gun in PvP for that reason. In PvE, again, it will absolutely shred, peeling off armor, dealing great damage, assuming you're hitting a weak point. So in the scenario where you're using it in the effective proper way, it is fantastic. But there are so many scenarios where it backfires or has its issues. So between the Jupiter and Equalizer, I always want to craft the Jupiter because it's just more reliable. Anyway, to craft yourself an Equalizer, it's much the same as a Jupiter. You need the Gunsmith level 3, you need the blueprint from the Harvester, and it is literally the same parts. But now, there is one weapon missing from this overview, the Aphelion, which is not currently in the game at this exact moment, at least that's what it seems. They still haven't properly talked about it. Now, there are references to the Aphelion in the game right now though. You got the new Matriarch and its reactors, which specifically used to craft Aphelion. So if we bring ourselves to the Gunsmith level 3, you look at the current weapons, it's 1 queen reactor, 3 complex gun parts, 3 magnetic accelerators. So for the Aphelion, you could fully expect the exact same required resources, level 3 gunsmith, and the blueprint, and then instead of the queen reactor, you just need 1 matriarch reactor, which is what I prepped for. But the blueprint doesn't seem to exist in the game, so we haven't got a chance to see it or get our hands on it. As soon as that changes, we will be covering it in detail. What we do know is that it's listed as an energy burst battle rifle, which sounds almost like the burst fire of an arpeggio, making it a solid medium range weapon, which should prove more reliable in PvP than maybe the other 2 special weapons so far. But yeah, we can certainly expect it to also require energy clips to fire, but I'm excited to try it. Now that brings us to our ranking. At first place, I put the Kinetic Converter. The 15% fire rate on a weapon that's going to benefit from that, with the downsides of the 20% horizontal and vertical recoil, is unbelievably good on any weapon that doesn't care about that. Again, my top choices will be the Stitcher for the budget and hilariously effective version of a Bobcat. It's like a Bobcat but better but for cheaper. And of course the Vulcano, which is the stat check dump shotgun machine. Biggest mag you can get on that, fastest fire rate, and just dump the shots into someone as fast as you can. This Kinetic Converter will only help with that. So those are my top choices for it, and the reason that I have it in my number 1 spot is because it makes a weapon feel like one of the best in the game, and that is pretty fantastic. Under that, second place, I've got the Snap Hook. For all the utility and benefits of this, the movement to chase someone down, surprise them in PvP with incredible movement, escape an awkward situation with arc, put yourself on top of an arc. It's just really fun and really effective, and the fact that you can put it in your safe pocket means that it will survive for a while as long as you're quick about that. It's really fun, it's really cool, and pretty much anyone can get great use out of it. At third place, we have the Jupiter. As a special weapon, I find this incredibly reliable, fun, and effective. 55 damage a shot is fantastic, and again, people just don't dodge it like people say they will. You can use it at incredibly long ranges or medium to close. You just have to be wary of that like cock time between the shots. For me, that just means landing it on target and swapping to a close range weapon. I try to open with a Jupiter and then swap, but if it's at medium range, I'll just stick with the Jupiter and fry them. And then it's unbelievably good for arc killing. At fourth, we have the Anvil Splitter. Because as fun as this is, it does have its clear downsides, taking an anvil that could work really well at long range into something that has to be used at medium to closer ranges. And then, worst of all, it won't just win, because you got things like the Venator and the shotguns, and even a Stitcher will go toe to toe with it. But it is an absolute arc killing machine up close, with great potential up close if you land a single headshot on a raider. Under that, fifth we have the Equalizer. The worst of the current legendaries in my opinion, despite its DPS potential being high and it feels pretty fun to use. The time to raise the weapon up, then wear it up is overly long in PvP. In PvE, that's not a problem, but you have to pre-wind for PvP if someone's swinging you. So it's a stat check trading weapon, and it's not the best of that kind, which is a problem. Ambushing someone with it though is super effective, and you can wipe teams if you hit them from the right spot. But you gotta be careful because while you're firing it, you move slow, you're very vulnerable, you're easy to headshot. Then we have a final acknowledgement of the Aphelion, which again I do think on paper sounds like the most reliable PvP special weapon, but naturally we need to use it in the game before we can properly consider that. So expect a video on exactly that as soon as it exists. But until then, that's my overview of all the legendary status items. Let me know what you think. I hope this was useful. Drop a like if it was. And until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.